So here we are again, and what I'm going to talk to you about today is something very, very simple. Now, as a drummer, as a musician, as a teacher, it's always been very much a priority with me to keep things simple. Now, you could look at what I was playing just then, and well, that wasn't very simple. But when you actually distill it down to the component elements that are in there, then you'll find that it actually is far more simple than you might imagine. When I'm talking about simplicity, I don't necessarily mean always opting to play simple drum parts. Simple drum parts played well are always going to sound good. This is something that we know, but there are certain circumstances where the music to be performed requires a much higher level of technical skill. And I don't subscribe to this slightly weird attitude I encounter sometimes that having not very well developed hand technique somehow gives you some sort of moral superiority over guys with amazing chops. It's all about context and about usage. What sounds right in the Eagles wouldn't sound right in the Mahavishnu Orchestra. What sounds right in the Mahavishnu Orchestra wouldn't sound right in the Eagles. It's all about having the skills required to do the job. And if you are up for a musical situation where there's a lot of really intense, high-level technical stuff required, then make sure you put your hours in and do it, because somebody will come along and take your place if you're not fully prepared. Anyway, talking about simplicity brings me to the subject of today's video, which is called, as you can see, sticking logic. Now, how many of you own and have worked through a copy of this book, Stick Control, one of the classics? It's one of the great template drum books, and what I mean by that is it can be applied to all sorts of different contexts. Lots of us have got our own ways of using it, and I am going to be showing you one or two of my own that are quite unusual, I think, in some of the future videos. One of the things I like to ask a room full of people when I'm doing a masterclass or a clinic or a drum camp or something like that is how many people have the Stick Control book and have worked with it. And in an average room of people, it's usually about half, so it's pretty popular. It's one of the mainstays of drum education. My next question that follows that is how many people have played everything in the Stick Control book? And then all the hands go down, okay? Well, I'm here to tell you that if you get as far as, here we are, if you get as far as pattern number 10 on page 5, you have played everything in the Stick Control book. Now that sounds pretty out there, pretty radical. I'll explain to you what I mean. Everything that follows on from page 5, including all the flam stuff, buzz roll stuff, they're all composites of those early stickings. And if you look at our sticking patterns as we know them, what they are sequences of motion. I identified this a few years ago and I thought, well, how simple can we make it? And having done a bit of analysis, I arrived at the conclusion that there are only 4 ways of playing a 2-note sticking. This won't come as a surprise to any of you. And they are right, left, left, right, 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 left, left. And that quite fast introduction that I played was just combinations of rights and lefts. There may have been the odd group of 3 in there, but that was largely all it was, just singles and doubles in various permutations. So there then follows groups of 3. So we have right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, 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 right, 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 left, 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 right, 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 left, left, left. And everything that we do is composites of these sequences of motion. They start to get superimposed over different rhythmic patterns, variations of dynamics, but you can break any sticking pattern down to those 12 sequences of motion. Here's an example, a popular rudiment that many of you will know, most of you will know, a Swiss Army triplet. Now, if I slow that down, and then pull it apart, it's left, right, right, left. So working on the 12 sticking modules system from my book, and it's the same book that I talk about on all the videos that you can get from here, that will be module number 2, left, right, and module number 1, right, left. And you know, the left hand lead just comes down to the low dynamic level to make the flam, then we put it over the triplet rhythm. But it is left, right, right, left. And you can do this with anything. Every sequence of motion, because that's what stickings are, all boil down to those 12 components that I identified a moment ago. Now, in this book that I've talked to you about so much, there are many pages of stickings, and they're not stickings like you're accustomed to. They're in triplet and 16th note subdivision, but they're sort of longer than the usual, more simple stickings that resolve in a very basic and understandable way, like a paradiddle, for example. Now, I've been a working drummer since 1977, and I've never really found all that much use for the paradiddle, other than for being a valuable tool for hand conditioning. Based on the amount of time we often spend practicing this kind of material, the actual usage that we get from it is disproportionately low. So the kind of stickings that I favour are slightly longer form, and they're more aligned to the sort of ideas I would use in both timekeeping and soloing. And here's the first sticking on page 38 of my book, and it's this: 1, 2, 3. And it's made up, of course, as everything is, from the 12 component stickings that we looked at earlier. But you might look at that and think, well, that's really hard to get under your hands because it kind of meanders around before it comes out at the other side. And there's an easy way that you can get past that, and that's just to put the leading hand on a different sound source. The leading hand is not necessarily the dominant hand. So the leading hand kind of plays the melody, which you can just pick out by isolating here all the right hand notes, and filling in with the left hand. 3, 4. And this is taking us back to our concept where we're trying to get matched facility all around the drums. So this is all kind of sort of very closely related. And that little burst at the beginning of the video was just these kind of stickings. And I've done it so much and thought about it in this way that I can come up with these patterns on the spot without relying on muscle memory. So that's a bit of an insight into my approach to stickings, and I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you next time when we're going to put another layer on this altogether. Okay, see you next time.